As a kid, I was always fascinated with history. I read about it, I watched documentaries, but now I want to visit and walk the ground of those historic places that I've spent years studying. Join me on my trek, History Adventures. This episode, we will visit Henderson Field, Fighter 1, and Fighter 2. Henderson Field is the easiest recognizable historic location here on Guadalcanal. When the Japanese invaded Guadalcanal in early 1942, their objective was to build an air base that would cut off Australia from U.S. supplies, effectively reducing Australia's power to threaten Japanese positions in the South Pacific. On August 7, 1942, U.S. Marines landed on Guadalcanal to capture and secure the airfield. Japanese forces working on the airfield were mainly construction troops, and during the opening bombardment, they withdrew from the area, moving back to Point Cruz. On August 8, 1942, the airfield was captured by the Marines and named Henderson Field in honor of United States Marine Corps Major Lofton Henderson, commanding officer of VMSB 241, who was killed in the Battle of Midway while leading his squadron against the Japanese carrier force. He was the first Marine aviator to perish during the battle. After capturing the airfield, work continued to complete it. This work was helped by the fact that withdrawing Japanese troops left behind construction equipment, buildings, food supplies, and a working ice maker. On August 12, 1942, a Navy PBY piloted by Lieutenant William Sampson claimed a mechanical problem and that he needed to land on the runway. His PBY was the first plane to touch down on Henderson Field. There was nothing wrong with his PBY. He just wanted the honor of being the first one to land on the airstrip. On August 20th, 1942, 31 Marine aircraft landed at Henderson Field, making them the first permanent air contingent at the field. It included F-4F Wildcat fighters and SBD Dauntless dive bombers. 2 days later, the U.S. Army Air Force would arrive with a squadron of P-400 Airacobras. The code name for Guadalcanal by the Allies was Cactus, and with that, the Cactus Air Force begins its operations. The Japanese would launch a few counteroffensives to retake Henderson Field: the Battle of the Tenarue or Alligator Creek, the Battle of Edson Ridge or Bloody Ridge, and the Battle of Henderson Field. None of these Japanese attacks were successful. Henderson Field grows quickly. Air operations in the Solomons and up and down what is known as the Slot were launched from here. Within a few months, large bombers like the B-17 were using Henderson Field. Air operations continued throughout the war. With the Japanese surrender and the end of World War II, Henderson Field is abandoned by U.S. forces. In 1969, Henderson Field was modernized and reopened as Honiara International Airport. The old 1942 runway would be in this general area. When you are at the terminal, you are on what would be the 1942 runway used by the Cactus Air Force. In front of the main terminal, there are a few plaques. They commemorate the 1942 Henderson Field, the modernization of the airport. There is also a Japanese 75mm Type 88 anti-aircraft gun. This plaque is overwhelming. An unknown U.S. Marine is buried here according to this marker. Also here at the Honiara International Airport is the Solomon Islands Memorial Garden. Here there are a few monuments dedicated to the U.S. Marine divisions that fought at Guadalcanal, and there is a memorial tree garden. Here you can dedicate a memorial marker and tree for a veteran. Fighter 1, also known as the Lunga Field or the Cow Pasture, was completed in 1942. Located about 500 yards east of Henderson Field, it was the primary airfield for the U.S. Navy and U.S. Marine fighters and Avenger bombers. There are a few pilots that flew from Henderson Field and Fighter 1 that were Medal of Honor recipients for their actions. Fighter 1 continued to grow in size, and revetments were built to protect the planes from the Japanese attacks on the airfields. Today, all that remains are just a few of the revetments from World War II. In December 1944, Fighter 1 was all but closed except for emergency landings only. Fighter 2, also known as Fighter 2 Field or Kukum Field, was completed in 1943 and is about 1.5 miles west of Henderson Field. It originally had a single runway made from Marston matting. Fighter 2 continued to grow and a second runway was built along with extensive taxiways and revetments. P-38 Lightnings from the 339th Fighter Squadron took off and landed from Fighter 2 in Operation Vengeance, the Yamamoto mission. This mission was to shoot down Admiral Yamamoto on April 18, 1943. Today, Fighter 2 is now the Honiara Golf Club. Fighter 2 was used as a civilian airfield until 1969 when the Honiara International Airport was reopened. The Honiara Golf Club World War II Remembrance Trail follows the history of events here at Fighter 2. Each tee has an example of historic events here at Fighter 2. This incredible photo shows the 3 airfields in 1943. Closest is Fighter 1, in the middle is Henderson Field, and Fighter 2 is off in the distance. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Henderson Field, Fighter 1 and Fighter 2. Please like and leave a comment. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. Also, share this video with anybody you know that's a history buff. Thanks again for watching.